Welcome to the run-up. Jason Longshore flying solo today. Kelly Francis is out of town. She'll be back with us next week as the Five Stripes return home to host Nashville in the last match before an international break in early June. But tomorrow is the biggest match of the year. Atlanta heading west, way west. Further west than they've been in a long time to face the Seattle Sounders at Lumen Field. Kickoff is 4:55 tomorrow. You can watch on Big Fox, Brandon Walsh Fox, or Homer Simpson Fox if you so choose. Kickoff will be 4:55. Broadcast will start 4:30 on radio. We will start at 4 o'clock with the Five Stripes Countdown, and you can find us on Star 94. That's 94.1 FM. In Atlanta, you can listen on the Odyssey app. You can listen on the Atlanta United app as well. And after the final whistle, we will have an hour of post-game coverage. Our full-time report will also air on Star 94. So, these are two of the biggest teams in Major League Soccer. And they're two teams that get compared to one another quite a bit. Seattle came into the league in 2009 and I think showed a different way that you could present Major League Soccer in this country. It was big. It was in an NFL venue, and they did not shy away from opening up the whole venue from time to time and drawing huge crowds. They also spent a good bit of money to both promote the team, but also to go out and get talent. And Seattle showed that you could do things in a big way, and this league could be treated in a big way. Atlanta United has done the same and taken it in some different directions. They've done some things differently than Seattle, but they also learned a lot from Seattle, and now Atlanta has their own version of being big. Seattle is big. There are other big clubs in this league, but these are the two that I think a lot of people nationally point to, and it was a big topic of conversation this week when the media talked to Brian Schmetzer, manager of the Seattle Sounders. There were a couple questions kind of around these things, and our friend of SDH, Charlie Boehm, asked a question about these two clubs being the whale clubs, the big whales in the league, and did that change anything about preparation, or was there a different vibe coming into it? Here's what Brian Schmetzer had to say in response.
It's interesting, Charles. I mean, I don't know if I go so far as say that they take stock into we're the two whales of MLS or one of the whales of MLS. But what I do say is they are, same as us coaches, they are excited for a different opponent, an Eastern Conference opponent. I think that adds a little bit of spice to the game for sure. But I wouldn't say that we are, inside the locker room, the guys are saying, oh, well, they got 40,000 people the other day, so let's go out there and kick their butts because they had more fans in the stands than we did. No, they appreciate, Heinemann, they appreciate Guzan, they appreciate, all of the good players that they have, and Martinez, everybody. I mean, that's what they appreciate playing against.
The last time Seattle played an Eastern Conference opponent was the MLS is Back tournament last summer against Chicago. The last time they faced them in a regular situation was also against Chicago to open the 2020 season. The Sounders have seen a steady diet of the LA Galaxy, LAFC, the Portland Timbers, Vancouver Whitecaps, San Jose Earthquakes. It's been a lot of the same opponents for the Sounders, and look, to start this season, Seattle has been the best team in Major League Soccer. The last time these two teams met was July 14th, 2019, and it's a really important game for Atlanta United on a few different fronts. It was in the midst of A lot of controversy, a lot of things were being talked about with Atlanta United at that time. They went to Seattle, and in a back and forth match in the second half, Raul Ruidiaz opened the scoring on a beautiful individual effort assisted by Cristian Roldan. Those two players will play a key role in this match. Joseph Martinez answered 7 minutes later to level it at 1-1. Pity Martinez with the assist. Harry Shipp had the game winner. Jordan Morris had the assist. Those are two players who will not factor into this match. That was 6 minutes after Joseph's goal. Other key elements of this match: 7 minutes in, Brek Shea had a very bad knee injury that ended his time on the field for Atlanta United. Michael Parkhurst came on to replace him. Also, Franco Escobar received a yellow card in the 82nd minute. That is one of the more atrocious yellow cards that I remember seeing. And it had a little extra meaning because that meant he was suspended for the following match. With Shea out, with Escobar out, Atlanta United had no wing backs, no really outside backs to play a 4-2-3-1 or 4-3-3, and Frank de Boer had to adjust. Justin Merrim became a wing back in this scenario, and Atlanta came home a few days later and dominated a Houston Dynamo side that did have an early red card, but the 3-5-2 clicked. It really suited the players that Atlanta had available, and they went on a very strong run of play that led them to the Eastern Conference Final. If they had beaten Toronto in that Eastern Conference Final, they would have hosted the Seattle Sounders in MLS Cup 2019. Now, the Seattle Sounders have went through something kind of similar to what faced Frank de Boer at that time, where they had Atlanta had limitations that they had to solve with a different way of playing tactically, a different formation. Brian Schmetzer came into this season with kind of the same situation. Jordan Morris was initially going to be loaned out to Swansea City with the idea that he could be purchased by Swansea City, and if he had stayed, they are in the playoff final now to have a chance to go up to the Premier League, and if they had qualified, won that match with Jordan Morris still there on loan, I would assume that his contract option could have been picked up, and it would have been a big windfall for the Sounders. Ultimately, as we know, he had a huge injury, knee injury, ACL, and he's out for the rest of the season. So Schmetzer had to prepare to play without Jordan Morris, who stretched the field out wide. You looked at the way this roster was coming together as well, and there really weren't many true outside backs or true wingers. So what Brian Schmetzer came into the season deciding to do, and some of this was down to the absence of Morris as well in the attack, but also the way you would have to defend, he opted to go to a 3-5-2/5-3-2. It looks like both at different points in matches. And this was a really important decision, and it was a decision that was questioned. It was a decision that Brian Schmetzer absolutely nailed with playing in this manner because it suits the players that he has available. Will Bruin is an excellent second forward to bring in to play with Raul Ruidiaz. Will Bruin is a selfless kind of player. He can be a target if Seattle's struggling for possession, which is something they haven't really done well with this season. He can knock the ball down to others and be a focal point for the team that frees up Ruidiaz to go find space. It also suits the wide players that Seattle has in Bradley Smith and in Alex Roldan. Roldan is a converted midfielder who was okay as a right back last season. He's far better as a right wing back in the way that the team is playing now. Playing in this manner as well has freed up Bradley Smith in a huge way, and he is becoming a very dangerous player in the attack for Seattle. He has 3 goals on the season. He has an assist. He's second in shots per game. He is 19th in MLS in expected goals scored. Bradley Smith has been a huge re-addition for the Sounders. Came back to them last September when his time was up at Bournemouth. He'd originally spent about 18 months with the team in 2018 and 2019 on loan. When his contract was up, he comes back, and he is flying in this formation. It's a huge part of the way Seattle plays, what the wing backs do to stretch the field. They're really the only ones providing width, but not just to defend, but to get forward. And I think it's a credit to Brian Schmetzer that he is able to adjust to what he has and make it work. He's been seen as a player's coach in his time in the league. Not really a tactical guy. I think he's a little underrated in that manner because his teams generally make very good second half adjustments. Um, and he does the right things to suit what he has. When he had Clint Dempsey, for example, he found ways to use Clint Dempsey, which was not always an easy player to fit into a tactical system. Schmetzer kept things very free for Dempsey to be able to do what he does best. Nico Lodeiro is a perfect kind of Brian Schmetzer player who also won't be available tomorrow because of injury. He's going to be coming back after the international break. Lodeiro is a number 10 who is comfortable dropping deeper into the midfield. He can play as an 8. He can play as a holding midfielder if he needs to. He can drift out wide. He can find the game. Schmetzer creates systems that gets the best out of the individuals that he has available. He also likes to stick with what's working, and that's why this 3-5-2, 5-3-2 will be the way the Sounders play tomorrow, barring a huge surprise from Schmetzer because it's been working. Schmetzer said before the season, what I always try to do is maximize each player's skill set within a tactical formation. It's always my intent to get the players to work well as a collective within whatever formation we end with. That's always the goal for me. It's not numbers on a whiteboard. That's not what's most important. Gabriel Heinze is similar in that he has some very specific principles that he follows, but he doesn't really care if it's in a 4-3-3 or a 3-4-3 or some other permutation, as we've seen from time to time. He wants to come up with the best plan to beat the opponent at hand, taking into account the players that he has available as well. So it would not be a surprise to see Atlanta United in a 3 center back structure tomorrow because of Seattle's 2 forwards. Does that mean Santiago Sosa is sitting deep as a center back, as we have seen him play from time to time this season? Or does it mean he is playing as a holding midfielder who is just sitting very deep and dropping when needed to deal with Will Bruin and Raul Ruidiaz? I have to wait and see how that one goes. Santiago Sosa is going to be a critical element for Atlanta United in this match. One of the best passers in Major League Soccer this season. He is 7th in MLS in long passes completed. He's the only player to have played every minute in all competitions for Atlanta United. Wherever Sosa is positioned, he will be critical for Atlanta United as they build up out of the back. Now, Atlanta has had the most possession of any team in MLS, over 60%. Their passing accuracy is outstanding, especially in the attacking half. It is the best in MLS at just under 82%. They're winning duels at a very high clip, 8th in the league. They're one of the best dribbling teams in the league. Dribble success rate puts them at 4th. The issue for Atlanta United is something we've talked about quite a bit. While that dribbling number is great and you want to see that high, it can create better chances as a team if there is better movement off the ball. And that's something that comes with time. Gabriel Heinze spoke to that again this week in his media availability. As the team gets more and more comfortable, as they are fresher, and that's been an issue for Atlanta United with CONCACAF Champions League on the docket this season. Played a lot of games in a short period of time. I thought the movement off the ball dropped as they played more games and as those minutes piled up. Looked better last week. Needs to look even better this week with another normal week. Atlanta United is 4-0 in matches coming off of a week's rest. This is another one of those. Do they keep that kind of mark? If the movement off the ball is strong, it will help. If the pressing up high is strong, it will help. These are things that are critical. These are things that are difficult to do when you're facing tired legs. And these are things that I would expect to see from Atlanta United tomorrow in Seattle. Now, on the Seattle side, they are off to the best start in Major League Soccer this season. They have won 4 matches in a row after their 2-0 win over LAFC last weekend. Atlanta United, we know, has been up and down. They're a work in progress. Our friend who is on Soccer Down here with us on Thursdays, Nico Moreno, he asked Brian Schmetzer this week if this was possibly a trap game because of that situation where Seattle's flying high. They look at an opponent in Atlanta that, some of the national conversation around Atlanta is that they're having a lot of problems. I've disagreed with that. We've talked about it quite a bit. I know that there's a lot of debate to do with that. But is this a trap game for Seattle? Are they maybe, after facing some of the heavyweights out west, are they not looking at this as a marquee matchup? Here's what Brian Schmetzer had to say in response, and a little bit more and his feelings about Atlanta.
Well, number one, Nico, I disagree with you on a couple of points. We have not messaged this, and I don't think the players are taking this as a trap game. I would say that other teams are coming after us because, we started off well. I would say that, but we're not taking Atlanta lightly. We actually started the film process our first day back in training, which is unique. Normally, we kind of debrief the last game and then move on to the next opponent, but we've already showed them clips because it's a new team, a pressing team. I mean, look, Martinez is an unbelievably talented attacking player, and they press with a different formation. Obviously they've had some injuries with Franco and, some key players missing. But I'm not so sure I'd call them a pressing team. I know at home, the last game against Montreal, they pressed higher up the field. Heinz does have his specific way of defending. But, for us, we don't know what they're going to do. They might sit back at home. They might say, okay, look, Sounders are playing pretty good. They might match us up a little bit more than what they did against Montreal. So I'm not so sure they're going to full out press. If they did, Nico, that's fine by me. But for sure, 100% to the question before. I mean, to Jeremiah's question of Atlanta, Seattle comparisons. I mean, they're a great team, and we're not taking them lightly at all.
I'm with Schmetzer on this. I wouldn't call Atlanta a pressing team. You could call them a counter-pressing team if you want, just because everything is based on the possession for Atlanta United. Everything revolves around having the ball. If they were a pressing team, they wouldn't be focused on the possession in the way that they are. So they do want the ball back, and we've talked about this through Gabriel Heinze's past quotes many times. They want the ball back. They want it back as soon as possible. They will commit the resources and take the chances to win the ball back. It's something that I thought as fatigue hit them early in the season, they struggled to maintain that intensity of trying to win the ball back. They showed it against Montreal, and I think Atlanta United will show this against Seattle. And I think it could be a really key element to the match, because I don't know if Seattle has been tested in this kind of a way. They're not exactly a build-up out-of-the-back team. Seattle's not a team that dominates possession in their matches. They've had 46.4%, 22nd in MLS out of 27 teams. They're really good when they get direct. They're really good when they counter, and especially counter out wide. They are a team that can play. Let's not, kid ourselves here. This is a side in the Seattle Sounders that when they do have the ball in dangerous spots, they can knock it around and pick the best option. And you go back and look at the second goal last week that was scored by Bradley Smith, assisted by Alex Roldan, and you saw how the Sounders could play through traffic and deal with that. They can do it. They don't often do it building straight out of the back. Their center backs don't have a ton of passes per game. Can Atlanta United catch Yeimar Gomez Andrade? Can they catch Xavier Arriaga? Can they catch Nuhu? Can they catch them under pressure and cause turnovers? Could be a really key element to this match, in my opinion. I think the other key element that we've talked about this week is Atlanta's width, especially up high. It has to be patient in this match, because part of that patience will fix Bradley Smith and Alex Roldan, make them have to sit deeper, make them have to defend from a deeper position and not join the attack. put it down to Joao Paulo and Kellen Rowe and Christian Roldan to carry the play through the middle. They have the ability to. They haven't had to as much because they've been able to open the field up through Bradley Smith and through Alex Roldan. Can Atlanta make Smith and Roldan defend first and then make the play come through the middle? Does Atlanta feel comfortable if it's Sosa, if it's Ibarra, if it's Heineman, that trio defending Seattle's trio? That's an interesting matchup of a three-man midfield against one another, and I'm really curious to see how that goes down. Raul Ruidiaz, we know his quality. We know what he brings to the table. He is one of the best players in this league. He can score goals in bunches. He can score goals out of nowhere. He will be a handful for Miles Robinson, for Anton Walkes. We're assuming no Alan Franco for this match. His ankle injury prevented him from making the trip. No Ezequiel Barco, no Jurgen Damm either. Raul Ruidiaz and Will Bruin present two very different challenges, and Robinson and Walkes will have their hands full with two very good forwards that complement one another very well. They don't do the same things. That can be a challenge for a center back duo. Santiago Sosa, whether he's sitting as a center back or playing as a holding midfielder, it will be very important that he is switched on defensively throughout this one. And he's shown great ability defensively on the tackle. He's shown the physicality. He's very good in the air as well. He's shown you all of that. He's going to have one of his best performances of the season to deal with the Sounders. I've got one more clip from Brian Schmetzer that I wanted to get into the show, where he was asked about, how teams prepare to deal with Seattle. Here's what Brian Schmetzer had to say.
Well, Jada, I would think that they're watching film of us already. So whether they try and find a way to slow us down, whether they devise some tactic to try and slow us down, again, the hardest thing in our sport is just to accomplish those tactics. You folks have heard me say that I prepare my team to play against, LAFC, and I believe they're going to play 4-3-3. And then at the last second, Bob changes and he plays a three-man back line. So Jada, I can devise all the tactics. Other coaches can devise tactics to play against us, but the players on the field really have to make the plays to help their team win.
Ultimately, it will come down to the players on the field. I think Atlanta United knows coming in who those players are that can break this game open. I think they also know how Seattle will play. I don't think they've really surprised anybody in their last couple of games once the footage is out there on playing the 3-5-2 and how dangerous it can be, especially with Smith and Roldan bombing forward from the flanks. I think there's not a huge surprise on what Atlanta United has done so far either for managers who have been paying attention, whether it's 4 in the back or a 3 in the back. That has been dependent on 2 up top for the other team or 1 up top. The width, especially in the attack, has been a very critical component for Atlanta United. I think it's contributed to the way Atlanta plays with their possession, but it also has contributed to a very strong defense. And these are 2 of the best defenses in the league. Seattle's only conceded a couple of goals this season. Atlanta's in the top 10 in goals conceded. Both have been very good. I think this will be a tight game. I don't think there's going to be a lot of goals in it tomorrow. I do think Atlanta United can come out on the winning end of this, but they're going to have to play their best match of the season. The Sounders are that good. And they're going to have to limit Smith and Roldan getting forward. They're going to have to make Seattle win through the more crowded section of the field in the middle, in that central channel. If Atlanta can force Seattle to have to play there, I think Atlanta has a better chance of getting a result, either a draw or getting a very big 3 points on the road if they can pull it off. Broadcast, again, just as a reminder, it is on Big Fox Dylan McKay Fox, if we want to go down that road. You can tell I was a Beverly Hills 90210 fan. Homer Simpson Fox for my friend Mike Conti as well. 4:30 is when the broadcast starts on TV. Kickoff will be at 4:55. The broadcast starts on radio at 4 o'clock. Five Stripes Countdown on Star 94. Please tell your friends if they're looking for this on radio. Star 94. You can listen on the Odyssey app, same app as 92.9 The Game, but just go to Star 94 for it. Go to the Atlanta United app and you can listen. It will point to Star 94 there as well. We will be with you for an hour after the final whistle for the full-time report. You will hear the press conference from Seattle with Gabriel Heinze, with likely a player or two speaking after the match, hopefully speaking after an Atlanta United win. The Salty Takeaway will be back tomorrow evening from some combination of John and Jarrett and Nick talking about this match. And then we'll be back on Monday for our normal SDH Overreaction Monday, digging into this game in a deeper way, taking all of your questions and comments. It's going to be a tough one. It's going to be a matchup, of the two whale clubs, as Charlie Boehm said, in MLS. The two of the biggest scalable clubs in Major League Soccer, the Seattle Sounders hosting Atlanta United, a big nationally televised match. Hopefully the quality of the match lives up to it, and hopefully, for those of you at least in this neck of the woods, it results in an Atlanta United victory or a draw, which would be fine. Also, just looking for a good quality performance here against a top team. I've had this conversation all week. It's not a referendum because it's way too early for something like that, and Atlanta United's been too good this season for something like that. But it is a measuring stick, and it is an opportunity to test yourself against the best team in the league. How does a very young Atlanta United team that could be playing multiple teenagers in the starting lineup again, guys like Eric Lopez, guys like Franco Ibarra, guys like George Bello, in one of the toughest places to play in the league, at Lumen Field in Seattle, a place where the Sounders have built that into a fortress. Very interested to see the response to this match and the occasion and anything that happens in it. Thanks for listening to the run-up. Kelly Francis will be back with me next week as we preview Atlanta hosting Nashville SC. Enjoy Seattle versus Atlanta tomorrow. We'll be back to talk all about it on the Salty Takeaway and on SDH on Overreaction Monday. Have a good one. Enjoy the match.